In this video, we're going to talk about how each party can really flip as many seats as possible during the governor elections. Well, we're going to really focus on states that one or more of them are saying isn't solid. And we're going to do this for the governor elections. I feel like I'd rather do this for the governor elections than the Senate elections, just because with Senate, it's tough to flip a lot of these states because it's a national office. Governorships can defy logic and partisanship of states more easily, and I feel like that might make it a bit more fun. Like, looking at this map, you'll notice how we have Republican governors in Vermont and New Hampshire. I get that New Hampshire was close when it voted for Democrats. Vermont was not close at all. Harris won by 31.5%, yet we still have a Republican for governor in that state. And conversely, we see that there's a Democrat in Kansas, a state that Trump won by 16 points. Looking at some of the other maps, we see 2027, a Democrat incumbent in Kentucky, a state that Trump won by over 30 points. For 2025 map, we see a Republican incumbent in Virginia, a state Harris won by 5.8. Now, I don't really want to get into the 2025 races, but they do, because they don't really have ratings out, although they do. And they are close, so you know what? We'll get into them anyway. So, in the case of New Jersey, they have it leaning Democrat. Virginia, they're saying it's going to be very narrow for Democrats, a toss-up, really. And, in this video, I'm going to sort of explain that. And for that, I'll briefly turn on my face cam. First of all, I actually live close to New Jersey. It has cooled off like 40 degrees since yesterday, and I'm not even kidding. It's like 48 right now, but honestly, today is the nicest part of the day. It's all cloudy and cold, but it is the nicest part of the day. And I thought I'd just be outside for a little bit before I go back inside, because I'm kind of getting stuck of being in the house. Okay, so for New Jersey and Virginia, they both voted for Kamala Harris, but they were both close-ish, 5.9, 5.8. If I were to go into margins and change likely, if I was to go into margins and somehow change it to 6, which I don't think is possible, but if I was to make it 6 as lean, they'd both be lean Democrat. Obviously, traditionally, we have 5 as lean Democrat. I'm just saying, move the nation 1% to the right, 1 measly percent to the right, and then you have New Jersey and Virginia as only lean Democrat. Just something I wanted to point out. And Virginia, has, while it's voted for Democrats and convincingly for Biden, it's certainly had its fair share of, being a swing state for a while, and before that it was actually pretty safe for the Republican Party, since 1964, if I'm being honest. New Jersey, on the other hand, is part of the blue wall, but this is the closest that New Jersey has voted for a Democratic candidate since Clinton narrowly won the state in 1992, back when New Jersey was Republican leaning. So I think that New Jersey has shown that it's becoming more purple. It's obviously not purple yet, but relative to the nation at large, it's only 7.5% to the left of the nation at large. That's kind of close. And it's not like we've never seen a Republican governor in New Jersey, in recent times, because in 2013, we saw Chris Christie win the state in a landslide as he flipped the state from the Democrats in 2009. Obviously, in 2017, he could have run for re-election, and he lost it in a, pretty sizable margin to Phil Murphy. But then you'll notice Phil Murphy barely wins the election. He wins it by only 3 points in 2021. Now in 2025, Phil Murphy can't run, but this is probably going to be more favorable for Democrats, given how the Democrats are no longer incumbent in the office. looking at the primary, we have the mayors of Newark and Jersey City, and we have some representatives. But Cory Booker is not running for governor of New Jersey. He's not. And Cory Booker is actually a pretty strong candidate, seeing as he won his race by 16 points, although it actually was on the same ballot that Biden won by 16. So, but he's still a strong candidate. He's still a strong candidate. And I think Biden, part of the reason of his success was because he was from Delaware, which probably boosted his support in places like southern New Jersey. Regardless of that fact, the Republicans have candidates, but they look weaker on paper. And it's not looking likely. But again, in a state like New Jersey, which is becoming more purple, I mean, again, Harris only won it by 5.9 points. In a state like New Jersey that's becoming more purple, you really can't rule this out. And remember, Murphy's re-election was close. It was close. It was a close re-election when, so obviously I know that was pretty favorable for Republicans, but still, you have to realize that New Jersey is not out of the equation. But I think what you have to do is you need to get a strong candidate to run, and there aren't that many of them. There aren't that many of them. You really only have state assemblymen and state senators who are in the running for the governor election, whereas you have mayors and U.S. representatives for the Democratic side. So in New Jersey, Republicans have to find a strong candidate, and honestly, I don't really know who there is for New Jersey. Now, Virginia, this is one that Republicans have got to defend. So, in New Jersey, at the very least, if they lose New Jersey, at the very least, it's they're on the they're on the offensive. Virginia, they're on the defensive. It's completely different because Virginia, they got to defend, and that's not going to be easy because Glenn Youngkin can't run. 2021, Glenn Youngkin runs. He wins the governorship by a little less than 2 points against Terry McAuliffe, and a lot of it came down to some of the Democrats. A lot of it came down to a lot of the COVID-19 mandates. But in 2017, for example, Northam won the governorship by 9 points. As he flipped it. McAuliffe was the former governor. 2013 he won, which is another Republican favorable year. 2017 it goes to Northam, wins by a lot. And then McAuliffe runs again, but loses to Glenn Youngkin. But there are some reasons as to why I would be nervous about the Republican stances. First of all, there is pushback on Glenn Youngkin. In 2021, the Republicans also flipped the Virginia House of Delegates. So they had 2 out of 3 chambers of government in Virginia because they flipped the Virginia House of Delegates. Before it was 55-45, and then it went 52-48. However, now it's 51-49 in favor of the Democrats. They flipped the chamber back. So you can see that there was some pushback on some of Glenn Youngkin's policies. And the election in and of itself was considered to be an upset. And Glenn Youngkin can't run because you can't run for re-election at all in Virginia. Or you can't run for 2 consecutive terms. And looking at the, Republicans, you have state senators and state delegates, but really the only strong candidate is Winsome Earl Sears, who's the lieutenant governor of Virginia. That's the strongest candidate I really see. And, obviously it's a lot stronger than Amanda Chase, I think. But, a lot of it depends on that. And now the Democrats don't really have too many strong candidates. The best option, the only declared option is Abigail Spanberger. But looking at the polling, it only shows a slight edge for the Democratic Party. Now, obviously, if it's Bobby Scott, then wins, but still, you get my point. And Bobby Scott declined anyway. But like Virginia, I mean, they have a candidate, but they don't really have the political climate for it. Again, 6 points for Harris is not insignificant. And unlike New Jersey, where it was a substantial shift to the right, Virginia, it was a shift to the left relative to what you have to realize what the state was doing politically. Because you got to realize that Clinton only won it by 5 points, Kamala wins it by 6, and while Biden won it by 10, Virginia in that election was only 5.5 points to the left of the nation at large. Now it's 7.5 points. So there's a little bit of a different angle, I think, with that you have to understand. Virginia went from being a red state to a purple state, and now it's a blue state. And it's going to be, I think, tough. So that's 2025 governor elections. Now 2026 is certainly going to be a lot more interesting. So Arizona is the first one, and this is the one where the Democrats are on the defensive here. So Trump wins the state by 5.5 points in 2024. It's the biggest margin out of all the swing states. But you have to realize that in 2020, Arizona actually broke for Joe Biden. You also have to realize that, at the same time, Arizona has 2 Democratic senators on the same ballot that Trump won by 5.5 points. Gallego wins by 2.4 points. And in 2022, Mark Kelly won his race by nearly 5 points after winning a special election by 2.3. And in 2018, Sinema won the state also by 2.3. So this has been going on for a long time. That 2016 was the last time Republicans won a Senate race in Arizona, and every year since has been a Senate race. And Democrats have won, each seat twice at this point. And looking at the governor race, Democrats are on the defensive here because Hobbs won by 0.67%. Now, I do think that there was a lot of it with it being against Kari Lake. I do think that certainly didn't help the Republican Party putting a far-right candidate up in a state like Arizona. And I will say Arizona is going to be a tough one to defend. But against Andy Biggs, I think Democrats have an edge because Andy Biggs is another huge Trump acolyte. And there's not really another strong candidate that we really see. I mean, I guess that's Karen Taylor Robinson, but she didn't get in 2022, and I feel like they're going to go in the direction of Biggs. I assume Hobbs is going to win a primary. And Robinson would lose anyway because she's not well known enough, so the best option might be Andy Biggs. But honestly, I kind of can't see Andy Biggs really being able to win this kind of a race. I'm not saying it's impossible. But I'm saying that it's going to be tough, I think, for Republicans to really flip Arizona. And Georgia, I think, will be even tougher. Georgia only broke for Trump by 2.2 points. And Biden won the state in 2020 as well. Looking at, some Senate races recently, Democrats swept both of the Georgia races in 2020, and then Herschel Walker defended a seat by almost 3 points in 2022. Now, the governor candidate will be on the same ballot as Jon Ossoff, the weaker candidate, seeing as he won by only 1% instead of 2 back in 2020. And I will say, on the same ballot that Warnock won by 3, Kemp won by 7.5. Guess what, though? Georgia has term limits, and Brian Kemp cannot run for a third term. He is banned, he is barred, he is ineligible to run for a third term in the state of Georgia. He just is not allowed to run for a third term. So, sort of, because of that, we're going to see a more competitive race. And right now, the Attorney General is the only declared candidate. If Marjorie Taylor Greene somehow wins the nomination, Georgia is flipping blue solidly, because there's no way that someone as extreme as her is going to win. Georgia's 14th congressional district has a Cook PVI of Republican plus 22. That's how Greene can really survive in a district that's that extreme. But she is not winning a statewide election in Georgia. The Lieutenant Governor, Burt Jones, is also a pretty strong candidate, and Jones is probably the favorite right now. And on the Democrat side, you have Stacey Abrams, who ran for governor in 2018 and 2022, lost both times. Jason Carter, who's the grandson of former Governor and President Jimmy Carter, and who ran for the seat unsuccessfully in 2014, losing by 7.8 points, is also a possibility. You could see Keisha Lance Bottoms, but the only declared candidate is a church founder, and I don't think that they'll really hold much water. Abrams is probably going to win, and I don't know how this matchup is going to go. But again, this is going to be a governorship that Democrats are absolutely going to target, and rightfully so. After this, you have Iowa, which one is saying solid Republican and one is saying battleground. Okay, I'm going to go inside now because it's like, again, like 48 degrees. It's freezing. And I'm getting cold. So, looking at the Iowa race, Reynolds has poor approval ratings. And it's going to be competitive because, first of all, she hasn't declared that she's running for governor yet. And Brad Sherman is going to primary her if she does run. He's a former state representative from the 91st District of Iowa. What you have to realize is that, first of all, the Iowa Auditor of State is expressed interest of running, but Paul Dahl is a bus driver. He's not winning. He has no chance. And I think that that's why the Cook Political Report is saying it's going to be solid Republican is because the Democrats don't have a candidate, but Kim Reynolds is unpopular. Then again, she could always lose in a primary. So this race could be competitive both for the primaries and, for the general election. Reynolds did win this race by 18 points in the last election. And Iowa voted for Trump by 13 points after voting for him by 8, even in a loss. And before that, by 9.5. Even though before it was actually, a relatively blue state, as you can sort of see on these maps. It really shifted firmly to the red because of Donald Trump. But again, with an unpopular governor, really anything could happen. And that's why I think Iowa could be close. Kansas is going to be a close election. Now, Laura Kelly is term limited. She can't take a third term. And we talked about how much, Kansas is really on the Republican side. Trump won it by 14.6 in his loss. Before that, he won it by 20.6. So Kansas is really a safe Republican state. However, you have to realize, how did Laura Kelly even win the seat in 2018 in the first place? It was not against an incumbent. And, Kansas is not like the two candidates of the same party. And you have to sort of realize under what circumstances did Kansas really flip blue, which they sort of knew it was going to be close. And Laura Kelly won by about 5 points. Oh, no, Hoyler lost renomination. But I don't really know what happened, but, 2018, Kansas flipped. I guess the Republican candidate was unpopular. And then 2022, Laura Kelly wins by 2.2 points and holds her seat. But now that she's gone, again, they're candidates for the Democrats, but they're not really that strong. Republicans probably have stronger candidates because, again, it's Kansas. So they really have to run on Laura Kelly's continued coattails. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Kansas is going to be a prime pickup for the Republican Party. Maine, they're saying, could be close. And Maine, you have to realize, a lot of this. And they have candidates here, but none of them are really that strong. And you have certain potential candidates here. But I think what makes Maine interesting is, again, this state is consistently voting blue. Kamala by 6, Biden by 9, Clinton by 3. And it's a part of the blue wall, so it's voted blue in every election since 1992. 1988 was the last time a Republican won a state at large. But what you have to realize for Maine is they'll be running along Susan Collins. And Susan Collins, on the same ballot, Biden won by 9. Collins also wins by about 9. So, certainly unexpected. And while Maine is being seen as a close Senate race with a prime pickup opportunity for Democrats, you have to wonder, can Susan Collins' coattails lead to potentially more success in the governorship as well? You got to think that it's possible, but also unlikely. Maine is like a blue state, but it's sort of purple in a way. And I don't think it's going to flip, but Janet Mills is term limited, so you never know who they're going to put up. And I think that Democrats might try to field some of their strong candidates against Susan Collins for the Senate race, given how they want to gain a seat in the Senate to, cut back at the Republican majority, shrink it, so they can flip it in 2028, because they really don't have a good chance in 2026 to flip it. But flip it for 2028, and I think that they'll probably put up a weak candidate for governor and hope that they can hold that. Michigan, term limited, it's going to be a battleground. And again, Michigan voted for Trump by 1.4 points, but Biden won it by 2.8 over Trump, and after Trump barely won the state in 2016. Michigan was not always known for, being a swing state. Obama did win the state by 17 points back in 2008. But Michigan, again, Michigan is just like a swing state now. And 2022, we did see Whitmer win by double digits after she, flipped the seat in 2018, also by almost double digits. But Whitmer can't run. And now for the Democrats, it's like, who are they going to run? Because again, they have a Senate seat to defend in Michigan too. And that Senate seat's going to be open as well. So I'm not going to get too much into that. But, Buttigieg is not running either. Gary Peters isn't going to run. And the Secretary of State and the Lieutenant Governor who've declared to run. Republicans don't really have that great of options either. But you have some potentials. Again, the polling is saying probably Democrats win it, but you better bet the Republicans are going to try to pick up the state of Michigan. Minnesota. So Tim Walz can run. We don't know if he's going to run, but they're saying it's likely to safe. Again, Minnesota, except for having a split house, not even a Republican house, a split house, really, is usually voting for the Democrats. And if Walz runs, I don't think Republicans have a chance. I think Republicans' only chance is if Walz doesn't run. Nevada's going to be toss-up. So Joe Lombardo flips it from the incumbent in 2022. The incumbent really won it over a far-right candidate in 2018, but he gets handed defeat by Joe Lombardo by 1.5 points in 2022. And we sort of knew that this race was going to flip. And it did. And, well, yeah. Now, anyway, in 2026, I don't know, I just froze out. Joe Lombardo's going to run for re-election. And we don't know what the Democrats are going to put up. But we know what Nevada's political lean is like. Yeah, sure, Trump may have won the state. But before that, consistently voting for Democrats, and sometimes, by significant margins. Key point and note here, Obama won the state by 13 points in 2008. Again, it was a blue landslide, but still. And look at the Senate. Both Rosen and Masto, it was narrow margins, but they both defended their seats as well. So, Nevada is by no means a red state. It's a purple state at best. And I think Democrats have control of both chambers of Congress. In the Nevada Senate, Democrats have a 13-8 lead. And in the Nevada Assembly, Democrats have a 27-15 lead. So again, they don't have a supermajority out of the chamber. Because 13 out of 21 is only 62%, and 27 out of 42 is only 64%. But they're close to supermajorities in both chambers. Nevada is by no means a red state. And Democrats are going to put a lot of effort into flipping the Nevada governor race, especially because there's no Senate race for either side. New Hampshire is likely for the Republicans. Ayotte won in 2024, so it proved that it wasn't just Sununu who could win governor races in New Hampshire. Again, New Hampshire is certainly a blue state, but, it's usually competitive. 2020, it wasn't competitive, but, 2016, it certainly was. 2012, it actually voted pretty in line with the nation, and same for 2008, even though Obama won it by large margins both times. So New Hampshire, yeah. Now, New Mexico, New York are going to be interesting. New Mexico's again, term limited in a state that Harris only wins by 6. So, got a little dicey, because, New Mexico has been a state that, since, Harris came to, had the worst of a Democrat since Kerry lost. And, again, Deb Haaland, the former Secretary of the Interior, is going to run. And she's certainly really strong. She was a representative of New Mexico's 1st Congressional District. Republicans don't really have that many people to put up. I mean, you're the former Chief Justice of the New Mexico Supreme Court, but I don't know. Probably going to go to Democrats, but Republicans might target the state a bit. New York is also interesting. So New York, solid blue state. Look at all of these, states where elections where it's deep blue after deep blue, ever since 1982, even 1988 votes blue, and, it was just a Democratic stronghold ever since 1860. Well, that changed in 2024 as Harris only won the state by less than 13 points. So it was a Harris win, and a win is a win, but it was close. And Hochul will run for the election. 2022, Democrat favorable environment. Lee Zeldin is a far-right candidate, and Hochul wins by, what was it, I'll need Jackson Jew for this one. I can't do the math. It was 6.4% for Hochul. It was close. And some of the Senate races in New York have also, gotten closer. Compare 2018 to 2024, New York shifts red for the Republicans by 16 points. Compare 2022 to 2016, 29-point shift. Looking at the Senate races, Gillibrand's win certainly was safe. Chuck Schumer won re-election by only 14 points, which is not what you'd expect out of a Senate majority leader to win re-election in a safe blue state by only that much. And now you have this idea that now they can put up a strong candidate for the Republican side, Bruce Blakeman, who's actually the executive of the county that I live in, and Mike Lua have expressed interest. Town Supervisor of Bethany, I don't think is a really strong candidate. Mike Lua is likely to win if running. Polling says Kathy Hochul is likely not going to lose in the primary. But Hochul is certainly going to be vulnerable to a primary challenge due to her poor approval ratings. And that's how a state like New York can get close. An unpopular governor can really sometimes lead to a lot of damage. And Dems might lose. Don't have time for Ohio. But we do have time for Pennsylvania. I'm telling you. Republicans could win governor races in Pennsylvania if they stop putting up weak candidates every single fucking year. Actually, Doug Mastriano, he loses by 15 points to Josh Shapiro in an open seat, which is embarrassing. But then look at who Doug Mastriano is. Doug Mastriano is someone in the far right. He has made social media posts referencing QAnon, and he attended Trump's rally on January 6th. Of course Mastriano stood no chance. 2018, Tom Wolf against Scott Wagner. I don't even know who this Scott Wagner guy is, but you know, he said he wanted to stop his opponent's face. He was he said that he would stop gay marriage in Pennsylvania. I mean, like, come on. And, well, yeah. Oh, and he's also an anti-Semite. So, yeah, Wagner had pretty much no chance against Tom Wolf. Lost by 17 points. Somehow, Mastriano actually improved on the Republicans' performance in 2018, which is stunning when you realize how much the Republicans lose by, but I'm not even kidding. Shapiro, at the very least, Josh Shapiro's win was in the likely range. Tom Wolf's win was safe Democrats. And Tom Wolf flipped the seat from 2014 against Tom Corbett. 2014, so a pretty universally known red wave. And Tom Corbett loses. First of all, Pennsylvania governor loses election since 1854. And this is due to a lot of it was due to Corbett's poor approval ratings. Only 20% thought he deserved to be reelected. Like, I'm being serious. Put up a good candidate, and Pennsylvania can vote for Republicans. But you gotta put up a good candidate. And again, Shapiro might run for re-election. We know Bob Casey Jr. isn't. As for Republicans, do not put up Doug Mastriano. Pennsylvania State Treasurer, even Dan Musa, I guess could work. Do not put up Doug Mastriano. I'm just telling you. Do not. Thankfully, Mastriano isn't winning in polls, but it's very early on. And look, PA voted for Trump twice. One time it didn't. 1.2%, so it was still close. And looking at the Senate races, like McCormick did win a Senate race in 2024. He did flip the seat. And of the Trump swing states, it was the only swing state to elect a Democratic, a Republican senator. The other ones still kept the Democratic senators. Pennsylvania can vote for Republicans, but you have to put competent ones up. You can't put up terrible candidates and expect to win. And that's what I really hope the Pennsylvania Republican Party learns to do, is to put up a quality candidate and not some stupid Trump acolyte. Or don't and never win a governorship election in Pennsylvania again. I don't really care. I'm at a point with apathy of the Republican Party, even though I naturally want to be a Republican because they're just ridiculous sometimes. Wisconsin is the final battleground. Again, Tony Evers won, but unlike Pennsylvania, Evers is narrowly winning re-election. This is less than 4%. 2018, flipping the state by 1% against an incumbent, to be fair. And he can run. He probably is going to run. Republicans have some candidates, though. But none of them declared either. Given that Wisconsin is, always close, and I mean, always close, in, literally everything that goes on, look at all these tilts. And this is 1%, by the way. Given that Wisconsin is, I think that, it'll be close. Fun fact, the Republicans actually have 6 out of 8 House seats in Wisconsin. But this map looks a little gerrymandered, to be fair. Still, Wisconsin is a state that can vote for Republicans. But against Evers, it might be tough. Again, against Evers, it might be tough. And what I think you also have to factor in here is that there's inherently going to be a bias against Republicans. It's inherently going to be a Democratic favorable year. So some of these states that, Republicans are going to target, like Kansas, I think that they'll be successful in. I think they'll be successful in Kansas. And all that stuff. But maybe Arizona, it's going to be tough, though. Democrats certainly have a lot more opportunity. They could, I'm not saying that I think New Hampshire's going to be a Democratic pickup, but Nevada certainly could be a Democratic pickup. Georgia could be a Democratic pickup. If the cards fall right, even Iowa could be a pickup. I think Iowa has a better chance of flipping than New York. So again, it's not like set in stone. And 2027, we also don't have poll ratings out yet. I guess it's too far off. Kentucky does have a term limited Democrat, though, so I'd say that seat is a pretty likely pickup for the Republicans.